From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson.
And I am the ever-loving, the heart-throbbing, the hardest, sexiest man on cable access TV, not causing this storm because I have all the women next to me.
No, you don't.
It's because I am loved by one and all.
Yeah, more like hated.
I am Hector Bosa. Yeah, they hate me. But let me get you started. The Rangers, Islanders, and Devils. Devils are close to wiping out the team that they're playing, the Lightning.
More like they're about to be wiped out. I mean, Tampa's been the best team in that entire series right now.
And look at that. And what are they doing wrong?
What are the Devils doing wrong? For one,
besides losing.
For one, they're not doing anything on the power play. And for another, their goaltending stinks. They had to make a change from Keith Kincaid to the other guy that they have, which is Corey. Unfortunately, his last name escapes me, but I'll get it somehow. But their goaltending sucks. They can't do anything on the power play. And it's gotten to the point where they've not shown much toughness either. Tampa has got some real bruisers on their line, and also the fact that I think 2 or 3 ex-Rangers are competing with the Lightning. Ryan Callahan for one, JT Miller another. The Lightning are doing everything possible. Most importantly, the Lightning are converting on their power play opportunities. And Corey Schneider is the goalie who I'm thinking of, who the Devils are going to be going to for Game 3 tonight in Newark.
Now, how about the rest of the playoffs? How are they matching up?
Well, the other series in the Eastern Conference, Pittsburgh has a 2-1 lead on Philadelphia. Pittsburgh won just yesterday. The big surprise right now, although I don't really call it a surprise because of the team involved, is Columbus leading Washington 2-0. Columbus has won both games in overtime, and again, Washington has shown how much of a tease they are when it comes to playoff time. And the other series in the Eastern Conference, Boston is manhandling Toronto right now. The Western Conference, Las Vegas is 1 game away from completing a sweep of the Los Angeles Kings. And again, I say, how about those Vegas Golden Knights? Building a team in their debut season in the NHL, they've had nothing but experienced veterans that have really put this team together, and now they're 1 victory away from going to the next round. The other series is Winnipeg and Minnesota. Winnipeg now leads 2-1. San Jose leads Anaheim 3-0. And the other series is Nashville and Colorado. If I'm not mistaken, I think Nashville has a 2-0 or 2-1 lead in that series.
So the hockey teams are playing up to par and some aren't.
Mm-hmm.
But is it looking bright for them, for the league in general?
Oh, it's looking very bright. Right now, the defending champion is doing very well for themselves against their in-state rival. Once again, Toronto has become a major disappointment in the postseason, which is not surprising considering that in recent playoffs that they've been a disappointment in the postseason. But other than that, right now, the big surprise is Columbus. Columbus usually is not a team to really count on, but right now, Columbus has gotten really good contributions from a lot of their players, specifically the ex-Ranger Brandon Dubinsky, and also their goaltending has been very good. So right now, Columbus is the one surprise in this postseason. And the one disappointment, once again, well, Toronto is one. Washington, again, just cannot seem to find the right mix in the playoffs.
And how about the Rangers and Islanders? How are they coping? Are they getting rid of anybody? Are they getting anybody?
Well, the Rangers already fired Alain Vigneault, their head coach. Now the question is, who's going to be the guy to replace him? And there's also talk of whether they're going to be bringing some of their veteran players back or not. I'm already hearing that maybe Matt Zuccarello could be on the way out, which would be a real disappointment because he's been a real productive player for them, and he's been a fan favorite as well. As for the Islanders, for some reason, Garth Snow still has a job as general manager, and he has done nothing to try and make that team better. That's number one. Number two is John Tavares coming back. He's basically been their best player for the last decade. Excuse me. And right now, his contract situation is up in the air. He's a free agent by the time summertime comes around, and there's still talk of whether he's going to be returning or not.
Would you?
I would obviously bring him back. He's been their best player.
Yes, but you as a player, would you go back to a team that's not showing any upside?
If I were John Tavares, I would think, well, I would want some answers, first of all. I would want some answers as far as what's going to happen with the roster because there seems to be very, very little turnover with that team right now. And I quite frankly don't know what they're doing. I don't even think Garth Snow even knows what he's doing, which also begs the question, why does he still have his job?
He must know somewhere in very high places, or he must have dirty pictures of someone in wrong position.
Whatever it is, I have no clue. All I know is there needs to be some change in leadership at the front office right now. I mean, they've gotten brand new ownership, and for some reason, they seem to think that Garth Snow is the guy to try and run the ship when he's not.
Let me ask you something about the Rangers. If you were the GM, who would you want as coach? And who would you keep and who would you get rid of?
Who would I keep? First and foremost, I'd keep Matt Zuccarello. Okay. Secondly, I would get a much better backup goalie for Henrik Lundqvist because it doesn't look like he's going anywhere. Although I still say don't be surprised if the Rangers explore a possible deal for the 36-year-old Lundqvist. As great as he has been for that franchise, the window for him to win a championship in New York is closed. It's just not happening here. The closest he came was 4 years ago, but other than that, he has not been anywhere near getting that ever-elusive ring. So that's why I say try and make a deal for some power play opportunities. Make a deal for someone who can give them some muscle at the forward spot. As far as who they would get as a coach, that's a really good question. Do they promote the guy from Hartford, or do they look elsewhere?
Who would you want for the people that's out there right now that are available?
That's a really good question. Peter Laviolette, maybe? Not too sure. He's not known as a real communicator with players, but Laviolette has found success elsewhere. Maybe it's time that he try and get a chance at a title somewhere else. He would be one guy that I would go after. Maybe a hot assistant that's out there right now.
How about the rest of the league? Do you see any ups or downs with teams that are not in the playoffs right now that are borderline could get there with one or two players?
Well, I'm hearing that Phoenix has got some really nice young players going for them. So maybe the Arizona Coyotes could probably build something down there. But with their future in the desert being so uncertain, it's going to cast a little bit of a dark cloud over that franchise, not even knowing what their future lies in the Arizona area. As far as who else, as far as whose stock is going up, maybe I would look at St. Louis, because St. Louis came really close to getting that last spot. So I would think St. Louis would be on the rise. A team that has got some real problems right now is Buffalo. Buffalo's got one or two good players. Other than that, their goaltending situation is worthless. They've got nothing going for them on their wings. So right now, Buffalo's got a lot of reconstructing to do.
How do you see the downside of some of them? Some of the teams that...
Downside for some of the teams, like I mentioned before, Buffalo's goaltending and wings situation and their goalie situation has been really, really awful, specifically their goaltending situation. Also, I would look at Montreal. Montreal's got it really bad right now. I'm not too sure what the deal is with Carey Price in goal. I would think that maybe they would try and explore a trade for Price. Max Pacioretty is somebody who might be dangled in a deal. Montreal is another team that's on the downside right now. Another team that might be on the downside is Chicago. Chicago's got a lot of older players. I think it's time for them to start going with the youth movement a little bit.
Youth.
Or as the late great, or as I would say,
Fred Gwynn.
Yeah, as the late Fred Gwynn would say, what is a ute?
Ute. Hey, the Yankees having fights, the Mets having a streak.
Yep.
And the rest of the league is doing pretty good.
Yeah. Right now, the two best teams in baseball are the Mets and the Red Sox. The Mets are the best team in the National League. They're about to play.
Pitching.
What's that?
By pitching.
Yeah. The Mets are the best team in baseball because of their pitching. Why? Because the pitchers are healthy. The only issue that I might have with them is Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey has not been able to get past 5 innings in any start this year. And even though he's shown signs of throwing the ball hard, he's got major control problems. And the Mets are missing both of their catchers. Travis d'Arnaud is gone for the year. He has to have Tommy John surgery. Kevin Plawecki broke his hand when he was hurt by a pitch. He's going to miss about 2 or 3 months. So now they have to go with Tomas Nido, who they got from the minor leagues, and also one of their other guys that they brought up from the minor leagues as well. So both of their minor league catchers make up their catching platoon right now, which means maybe if things don't go well for them at catcher, they might have to make a trade. And I already heard that maybe the Mets will talk with the Marlins about JT Realmuto, who's in Yankee Stadium right now for the Marlins-Yankees series. The Yankees are hosting the Marlins right now.
And who would they trade?
That's a good question because the Mets don't really have that much down in the farm right now. They're probably their most marketable prospects are either Dominic Smith or Matt Reynolds, maybe Brandon Nimmo, and maybe one of their infield prospects. But right now, they really don't have that much to. They really don't have that much to try and dangle in a deal.
Next year, Syndergaard, Harvey, and Tankis is leaving next year. They're up for a contract. So who do you sign?
Syndergaard has to be brought back. He's the guy with the most upside. Jacob deGrom, I would bring back.
DeGrom, yeah.
Zach Wheeler and Steven Matz, I would bring back as well. Just to give you an idea, the guy who was featured in their team magazine for the year wound up being Michael Conforto and not Matt Harvey. So that tells me maybe the Mets are phasing out Matt Harvey, although I wouldn't be too quick to give up on him right now, because now that he's back and healthy, he's shown signs of throwing the ball hard. He threw 95 miles an hour over the weekend. So maybe he could be the one to probably offer salary arbitration to. I'm not really sure. But definitely the guy to bring back is Harvey. Is Syndergaard and DeGrom and Steven Matz and also Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, well, let's see how their budget goes
Mm-hmm.
and what they could afford and what they can't afford. And the Yankees beanball fighting and
Yeah,
and then,
that was
the
absolutely crazy.
The doubleheader that they had to snow out and all that.
Mm-hmm. They got to replay that doubleheader from yesterday in June when it's going to be much warmer. But this weather has not been cooperative with any teams this year. Not only was yesterday's doubleheader postponed, 4 other games from yesterday, which, by the way, was Jackie Robinson Day, were also postponed, so they got to be made up down the road. Cubs versus Cardinals from today was postponed. They have to make that up as part of a doubleheader in July. Mother Nature has been really, really cranky this month.
And they don't want domes.
Because it's too much money.
You know what? You can rent out those stadiums for other things, soccer and football. I know you don't want to tear up your grass, but you're going to make your money by concerts, by having concerts and so on. You'll make money. If you're smart, you know how to make money.
Yeah.
But in general, and depending upon zoning laws and all that. But in general, I would put domes up. I wouldn't do this open air thing. I would put a retractable dome if I had to.
Easier said than done, man. Those things cost
Yeah,
money. That's a couple $100 million more.
The way baseball makes their money back, eventually they'll get it done. Because remember, it doesn't have to be put. It's allotted like a house every year. They could pay it off a little bit at a time.
Well, it's funny that you mention domes, because in Toronto, they had to postpone the Blue Jays versus Royals game because some ice fell off the top of the CN Tower and fell through the roof of the Rogers Center.
I'm not saying it's perfect.
So now they have to fix that retractable roof, hopefully by tomorrow, and make up today's game, maybe as part of a doubleheader either tomorrow or Wednesday.
There aren't any true doubleheaders anyway.
Nope. It's not like back in the day when they had true doubleheaders, but they had 154 game seasons back in the day.
Yeah, but they also had doubleheaders which went back to back, not one during the afternoon and one at night.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're trying to make money. That's all there is to it. But let me ask you, what caused the Yankees fighting with Boston, and why are they in the position that they are today?
Well, it's simple. A couple of guys got hit. Tyler Austin was hit. One of the guys on the Red Sox was hit. Austin would, and there were already multiple warnings being given out in that game. And what happens? Tyler Austin gets drilled on the hip, and he starts an all-out brawl. And Austin's
I heard it was a tough slide.
Yeah, that was.
To second base.
Mm-hmm. That was another thing. Tyler Austin made a feet-first slide into second and wound up clipping one of the Red Sox infielders during a turn of a double play attempt.
Now, didn't they change the rules that they can't wear cleats anymore? That they could only wear the rubber cleats?
I think
or
they
are they
did.
still going with metal?
I think they did, but the problem was Austin's foot was sticking up in the air, and it wound up hitting the guy, I think, in the ankle or the shin. And either way, they thought that Austin's slide was intentional.
They were calling for a video.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't videotape those things anymore. So I'm sure they're going to do that now.
As it turns out,
Next
Austin
year.
wound up getting a long suspension.
I think he's fighting it, though.
Yeah, he's appealing it right now, which means he could play anytime he wants.
Yeah. But let me ask you, why are they in... I mean, not that they're doing bad, but they're not doing great.
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with them right now?
First and foremost, starting pitching has been very mediocre. The bullpen, specifically the back end of the bullpen, has gotten a tad more work than they're supposed to. And Giancarlo Stanton is off to a horrific start. He's a strikeout waiting to happen. He's not seeing the ball well at all. And because of that, he's already become a marked man in the Bronx.
You know, everybody has their moments in time. I'm sure when the weather gets hot, he'll get hot. I know he's not going to be a strikeout king for very long because the Yankees wouldn't have gotten him.
They're also missing Greg Bird at first base because Greg Bird has been hurt. And also Jacoby Ellsbury has been hurt. So because Bird has been missing at first base, Neil Walker has had to play a little bit at first. And Ronald Torreyes, who has been mostly a role player for them, has been getting more time at second base.
But
Plus,
if the guys were hitting the way they're supposed to, they can hold out with the two guys that you mentioned.
And they just got Aaron Hicks back from injury, so hopefully he'll be able to make a contribution in the outfield and at the plate.
Do you think Boston? Well, I mean, eventually they'll simmer down.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get cold eventually because no team can be hot. There's only so many teams that can be hot for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the hottest streak you've ever seen in baseball?
All time?
Of all time.
Well, the longest winning streak in baseball history, I think, is by the Braves to start the 1982 season. I think they won 22 or 23 in a row in 1982. That's when Joe Torre managed them. And over a decade ago, I know the Rockies had a 21-game winning streak to end the regular season. Actually, it was 20 out of 21 to end the regular season, which also put them in the playoffs and then into the World Series. Then there was also when the Oakland A's had a 22-game winning streak in 2002, and that put them in the playoffs.
So, you never know. In baseball, it's so weird because anybody at any given time can get into a streak.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the Yankees and the Twins last year. Both teams were not supposed to make it, but they got hot in the end.
That's exactly right. The Yankees got hot at the right time, and it was just enough to put them in as a first wild card.
Yeah, and they're planning to add 2 wild cards, which is really ridiculous. But then you have it going until November. Who wants to play November ball?
Well,
you know, it's ridiculous. It's bad enough playing in October because you don't know what type of weather you're getting. If you were playing in a dome, yeah, I could see it. But you're not playing in a dome. You're freezing your tail off.
Yeah, it's already overkill as it is, having 2 wild card teams in there to begin with and 3 division champions.
How do you see the rest of the league going right now in the American and the National?
Boston's the best team in the East. Cleveland and Minnesota are doing reasonably well in the Central. Cleveland right now is the favorite to win the Central. Out west, though, right now it's the Astros and to a lesser extent the Angels, who are the teams to beat. Right now, the Astros are the team to beat, probably in the entire league right now, since they are the defending champion. And last night, Houston had this really great pitchers duel going between Justin Verlander and Bartolo Colon. Colon actually pitched 7 perfect innings before he wound up giving up a walk and a double, which allowed the tying run to score. But it was just a great, great game by both teams. And right now, I would not be just dismissing the Texas Rangers like that. Something tells me that they're going to be giving teams a lot of problems this year.
And who's the downside right now? Who's not living up to par?
The team that's on the downside right now, the Seattle Mariners. Still having problems with pitching. The only true slugger that they have right now is Robinson Cano. So
don't you know it's Robinson Cano?
Mm-hmm. And also, Kansas City has been teeter-tottering a little bit.
And that's it. That's how you see, because the rest of the teams they're going to probably do 500 ball.
Mm-hmm.
You think the rest of the teams?
Yep.
And now, so far you have the Astros winning their division.
Yeah.
Boston. Do you see the Yankees of Boston winning their division?
I still see Boston as with a slight edge over the Yankees. I think their pitching is just better.
And Cleveland in their division.
Cleveland in their division, but don't count out Minnesota, though. Minnesota's got some really good, strong young players and a much better pitching staff than people give them credit for.
Who do you see as the wild card for American and National?
I still like the Yankees and maybe the Anaheim Angels as the 2 wild cards in the American League. National League, I still like Washington, even in spite of the start that the Mets have had. Although I do see the Mets as 1 wild card in that league. I like Washington to win the East. In the Central Division, I would say Milwaukee is going to be a sleeper team coming out of that division this year.
Wow.
Still like the Chicago Cubs, though, because they still have enough sluggers to try and outscore a lot of teams towards a division title. But right now, the one issue is the Western Division. There are 4 really good teams that could win the Western Division right now. There's San Francisco, there's Colorado, there's Arizona, and then the LA Dodgers. One of those teams is going to be the division champion, and it looks like somebody could be on the outside looking in.
And it just goes to show you again that baseball is still going on the upside right now. If the 2 Yankee sluggers start to hit, there'll be more eyes on that, and every team lives up to par.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, how do you like Tiger Woods getting back into form in golf?
I feel he played well. He's not going to agree because he's a really competitive player, probably one of the most competitive players that I've ever seen. And he's always been his own worst critic, so he'll disagree with anybody who says otherwise. But overall, for his first tournament back, he played reasonably well.
And they need him.
Mm-hmm.
The GPA needs him to stand out, because there aren't that many golfers that stand out like he does.
Exactly
He's
right.
the Muhammad Ali, the Michael Jordan of all time, like Jack Nicholson and Lee Trevino and all them other guys.
Yeah.
And Chichi Rodriguez. Those guys stood out. There aren't that many people that stand out anymore, even though there's a couple that you can think of.
Well, Rory McIlroy has done pretty well for himself. Phil Mickelson also.
Yes. But he has a tendency, Phil Mickelson has a tendency to blow it.
Yeah.
He has a tendency to choke sometimes. But, you're not in his shoes, so you don't know what's going on.
Yep.
But in general, golf is doing, as long as he makes it, golf is going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
In the women's, you don't really hear too much about women's golf anymore.
Well, unless it's on television, but
yeah,
have not heard anything about what's going on in women's golf lately.
Exactly, because you used to have Nancy Lopez and them other girls that were up there.
Yeah, Annika Sorenstam was one.
Yes, exactly. So, but shifting, you've gone through football, basketball. We do football. We did. No, we haven't done basketball, but baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've done golf.
Yep.
Now we go to basketball.
Mm-hmm.
The
Playoffs.
New Jersey Nets.
You mean the Brooklyn Nets?
The Brooklyn Nets. The Pokoro sold 49% of his share.
Yeah. Sold his share to a guy who runs his own business. I want to see, even though he's a minority owner, a 49% owner of the Nets, I want to see exactly what kind of vision he has for this franchise, because we all know what the Nets' plight has been. They have always been the Knicks' ugly stepsister.
Yes.
They've gotten very, 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 very little attention in the tri-state area, save for the Jason Kidd years and when they made the move to Brooklyn in the first place. I want to see what kind of vision this guy has.
Well, I don't know how much vision you can do at 49%. Because Pokoro still owns 51%.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much input does this guy have. But the team itself has somewhat of an upside. The thing is, you still have to build on this team, and how many years do you give it before they come to the top? Because it takes about 3 years to get there to actually show something that you have.
Well, for them, they've already had 3 years, and it seems
exactly.
And it seems like it doesn't. This completion of the rebuild is not going to end anytime soon. I mean, in spite of the players that they have, how much longer does this franchise have to go on to try and do the rebuilding thing? It seems like they've been doing that for 4 or 5 years now.
Because right now, since they have new guys on the team, and they're finally getting draft picks next year.
And I just found out, it turns out the Nets do have a number 1 draft pick after all, but it's in the low 20s.
You know what? You can still get a good player.
They can.
If you got the right eye for it.
And the way things are going right now, it looks like the Knicks are going to be drafting 9th.
Well, but it's not their pick.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Cleveland's pick or something. Oh, Houston.
Well,
I'm not sure which one.
Well, the Brooklyn Nets' own draft pick is still owned by the Cavaliers. The Knicks have their own number 1 draft pick, which is 9th.
Yeah.
But next year, the Nets finally get to control all of their draft picks for X amount of time.
But next year is when the commissioner tries to implement a clause in there where you can't bomb anymore. You can't.
See,
you can't lose.
See, here's the problem. Look at I see what the Phoenix Suns did this year. Phoenix won 21 games. What could they have possibly done with that roster to try and keep from self-destructing on purpose? I mean, look at who they had. Devin Booker and Josh Jackson. Other than that, who do they really have? They had two good players, one of whom had a 70-point game, even though they still lost. That just goes to show you how bad the Suns were this year. When their best player, Devin Booker, records a 70-point game and they still lose by 10 points, that just goes to show you how sorry the state of affairs is with the Phoenix Suns.
And the Nets the same way. And who else was at the bottom of the barrel?
Phoenix, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Sacramento Kings, who've been at the bottom of the totem pole for over a decade now. Also, the Nets and the Knicks, of course. The Charlotte Hornets, the Los Angeles Clippers took a major nosedive this year. It only got worse once they made the Blake Griffin trade. There was also Dallas. Dallas was horrendous this year. And I already heard Dirk Nowitzki is going to play next year. He is going to play next year with the Mavericks, which means he's going to come back for, I think, a 21st season. I really don't know. I don't know what there is for him to prove. He's already won a championship. He's already been the league's most valuable player. The Mavericks are going to be god-awful again next season. What is he proving?
The man's in shape to play basketball, and he loves the game. That's all I can think of. And also, Vince Carter is coming back next year.
Yeah, Vince Carter is definitely coming back
but he's retiring.
Yeah, next year he's going to be in his 21st season.
Right. But again, it all depends how the body holds up and how many teams want you. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, if, for instance, look at Derrick Rose. They say he's still in decent shape, can do this and that, but there's a man that always gets hurt.
Yeah, it's a matter of his knees, not his game conditioning or overall conditioning. And from what I heard about Vince Carter wants to return to Toronto next year.
Yeah, because, you know, he's got a spot there. Unless you go into a contender, that's the only way I would leave a team. And like Carmelo Anthony, he's finally making the playoffs. OKC is making the playoffs.
Yeah, but how far is Oklahoma City going to go in that Western Conference? That Western Conference is deep. 8 deep on teams that could really make some kind of run this year. Although, at this rate, the two teams that could really slug it out for the NBA Finals are Houston and Golden State.
Well, here's another thing I never understood.
Which is
the Eastern Conference is weak. I don't know. Besides the Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Sixers, everybody else, I don't know why more superstars don't want to come to those teams, knowing full well that they can make the playoffs a lot quicker than they could win in the Western Division.
You know why? Because the teams in the West are better.
Yes, but me as a player, I would pick the best team in the East, knowing full well that I'll make the playoffs in the East quicker than I will make it in the West. That's the thing. I don't. Why you just said that the Western Division are 8 deep. In the Eastern Division, you got 3 deep, maybe 4 tops, and then after that, you're throwing up nickels and dimes. You don't know who's going to make it. No. So I don't understand the mentality, but they see great players going to the West, and they're trying to make super teams. And I'm going, wow, you know? I mean, I was looking at Houston if they had LeBron James and CP3 going to Houston, then forget it. That's a super team.
At this rate, I don't even know what he wants to do But he's got more important things to worry about. His team is down 1-0 in the series with Indiana.
Man, he'll carry the team, but
No, that's not a guarantee. The way Indiana played yesterday, Indiana looks really, really strong. And Victor Oladipo, a kid who really was not given a fair shake when he played for Oklahoma City and was really on a horrendous team in Orlando. He's finally got a place to shine in a place that was basically his old stomping grounds, which is Indiana. He started Indiana University. Now he's back with the Pacers. He's become an all-star.
When you play for a good team, you play like a giant.
Well, it's funny you mention that.
Because J.R. Smith, he did pretty well when he was in Cleveland. Now you don't hear from him.
That's because he is the kind of player that runs hot and cold every single time. That's how his entire career has been, going back to New Orleans and Denver.
But look at the teams that have left the Knicks. They have made it to the playoffs more than that the Knicks made the playoffs, and they won championships a lot more than most of the Knicks ever won a championship team, or even gone to the playoffs. Most of those players have gone to different teams and have gotten to the playoffs more than anybody.
Hector, you can say that about any other player that's won on a championship team. I mean, look at Sean Livingston. Sean Livingston was a Net for a year, and what happened? The following year, he winds up going to Golden State, and what happens? He winds up winning a championship. Look at Andre Iguodala. Andre Iguodala was a Sixer for 8 years. Then he goes to Denver for a year. He winds up in Oakland playing for the Warriors. He wins 2 titles.
Yeah, but it seems like most of the teams, the players, because remember, you're always killing the Knicks. And, because, Felton, if you figure Felton, is he a great player?
No.
No.
Not even close.
But when he plays for another team, he's a great player.
He's not a great player on another team. Not even close.
He's a good player because he stays with the team and he's won championship. That's my point.
I don't remember Raymond Felton winning any championships.
He did win.
I don't remember him winning any rings.
Yeah, check your books. Check your stats because I'm sure he did. But look, J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, guys that were on the Knicks that were terrible, but somehow they go to another team and they flourish. Is it because of coaching? Is it because of players around them that make them look better?
Yes, it's both.
Of course. But speaking of coaches, I sent you that list before. They're saying that they don't want Jeff Van Gundy. Stupid move, but Dave Platt.
The question is, does Jeff Van Gundy want to go coach the Knicks again? I mean, he's been there and done that. He had 5 full seasons and parts of 2 others with the Knicks. He took them to the finals. He was about as underappreciated a head coach as I have ever seen in this town.
And he quit in the middle of the season.
He quit in the middle of a season. For one, he had some things going on in his personal life that not a lot of people know about. But, and 2, he saw what the writing on the wall was. He knew that things were going south with that franchise. I don't blame him for leaving.
So out of the list that I sent you, because they're saying Jason Kidd, Mark
right.
Jackson,
I don't think so.
Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy, Dave Platt, who won the European Basketball League.
There's a difference between winning in the European leagues and in the NBA. Dave Blatt was run out of the NBA by LeBron James for a reason. Because Dave Blatt, according to LeBron James, had 0 playmaking ability on the sidelines.
Again, but he won a championship with them. So he's one of the very few coaches that actually won a European
David Blatt was not on the sidelines when they won that championship. Tyronn Lue was.
Yes, but I know he won a championship.
He was not on the sidelines when they won the title.
Okay.
Tyronn Lue was.
Okay, fine, but he did win a championship, didn't he?
I'm not really sure he was deserving of winning that championship because it seems like he didn't know what the hell he was doing with his X's and O's.
Because I can tell you one thing, that the article that I read, they were saying that he's one of the very few people that won an NBA championship and won the European championship. So
I only consider him a head coach in the European leagues. He's not NBA material, not even close.
The guy from Villanova, Jay White.
Not Jay Wright, please. Jay Wright is out of his league, for lack of a better word, if he thinks he can try and prosper with that roster. I don't think so.
Jerry Stackhouse.
Jerry Stackhouse has been paying a lot of dues, first in the G League, and now I think he's on the sidelines in the NBA. Stackhouse would make a pretty decent head coach down the road. But with this roster, he's going to have to really bust his butt to try and make them a contender.
Monty Williams.
Williams was a good player back in the day, but if he could not cut it in New Orleans, what makes anybody think that he could cut it in New York? I don't think so.
So, out of the list that I sent you, which one would be the perfect fit with the Knicks right now?
As far as the perfect fit, I don't know if there is a perfect fit, but the one guy I know they would definitely owe it to themselves to interview is Mark Jackson. If anything, Mark Jackson would probably blow them out of the water as a head coaching candidate. He was unfairly fired by the Warriors. He's been chomping at the bit. I know he's been chomping at the bit to get back on the sidelines as a head coach once again. He wants that one more shot to try and be a head coach. And I think he would do very well in his hometown.
How about Mark Whitson all over again?
No! Hell no! Not even close. You know, do you know that sorry-ass franchise is actually going to interview that idiot? I mean, seriously.
Down.
No!
Down.
I don't want that dumbass running that sidelines again.
Got you to the playoffs.
I don't care what he did. He's awful with playmaking. He's awful with substitutions. He doesn't give. He has zero clue how to put together a starting five. The answer is no.
Okay,
that's
so
only
Mark
reverting
Jackson
back to form.
So Mark Jackson is your guy. I would pick him too. Now,
Mark Jackson should be the guy.
Yes, and if not him, if Van Gundy wanted it, would you give it to him?
If he wanted the job really badly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would give him the job. But he needs to do something about that roster. He can't.
Who are you going to pick for the number 9? Malik Bridges? We're still sticking with Malik Bridges?
If he's still there at number 9, I would go with Malik Bridges. They need a defensive stopper.
If not him?
If not him, well, these are the guys who I would like to see either in a Knick uniform or a Net uniform, although the Nets are picking low, so that they're out of reach. Wendell Carter from Duke.
What position?
He is a forward. He's a big forward. Okay. Maybe Marvin Bagley III. Maybe Corey Sexton, the point guard from Alabama. Maybe Trey Burke. Not Trey Burke. Trey Young. Trey Young from Oklahoma, who a lot of people are down on, but let me tell you, anybody who has got the nerve to launch a big shot when the game is on the line and not be afraid, they should be the point guard in my book. Not only that, but Trey Burke. Here we go with that name again. Trey Young is such a creator and such an outstanding ball distributor that he could probably make the guys on the Knicks look good right now. His problem is when he's really wild, he has a really bad habit of taking some really ill-advised shots and also committing some really, really, really careless turnovers. There's also the issue of his height.
Yeah.
There's also the issue of his height. He's going to get exposed defensively, and he's not a great defender to begin with. But
here's the thing with that. I mean, you've got Kemba Walker going to the Knicks, and doesn't have the greatest height in the world either.
He's got the best step-back jumper in the league, though.
And so you're going to give up one to, not that the Knicks are any great defensive team, because right now, remember who's leaving on the team. Who's leaving? Cantor, O'Quinn.
Yeah, Enes Kanter, Kyle O'Quinn. A couple of other players are going to be unrestricted free agents as well.
Exactly.
Or they may have they might have options in their contracts that could be declined.
No, they're leaving. Cantor said he's opting out of his contract, or so is Quinn. The thing is, you started out with 4 centers. Now you have none.
Yeah.
Except for Joakim Noah.
Mm-hmm.
And do you see him coming back? Perhaps, depending upon who the coach is.
They could not get rid of Joakim Noah even if they tried. No other team wants him unless the Knicks buy him out of his contract, which is going to be a real pain in the ass. I'll tell you that right now. Because he's making a ton of money, and quite frankly, if they bought him out, it would take the Knicks maybe 5 to 10 years to pay off that deal.
Unless they go with the slow payment plan.
Yeah. They probably have to give him the Bobby Bonilla treatment.
Yeah, because the buyout is one thing. You know, if he opts out for a lower amount of money. But the Bobby Bonilla thing, that they pay him until 12 years.
Yeah.
But
he signed until 2035.
Right. That's just. But he's right now. If I was them, I would keep him.
They have no choice but to keep him.
Because here's the deal. He's staying there until 2020, right?
Yeah.
Next year, you can probably get rid of him anyway because he's at the end of his contract. And most of the time, teams will go after guys that want salary cap.
Even if he were in the final year of his contract, it would be impossible for them to move him. He's making way too much money.
Maybe, maybe not. Again, it all depends on the teams that want salary cap. Because they'll want to pay him, and then they'll get rid of the books. They'll get rid of the books by 20, because his contract ends in 2020. So think of it that way. Now, who do the Knicks go after? Hopefully, if they get Bridges.
Well, who they go after in the draft is one thing. Who they go after in the free agent market, that's another thing. Because I'll tell you right now, no superstar wants to play here.
And I don't blame them at this point in time. And everybody is preaching patience. Patience, patience, patience. Even Dolan came out with an article today saying, now he's the most impatient man in the world. And you got James Dolan preaching patience.
He is such a little hypocrite, I swear.
So, since he's preaching patience, and so is the general manager and all them other people preaching patience, then you know what? Because they don't have a bad team right now.
Oh, they've got a bad team. If they did, they would not have lost 53 games this year. They've had a bad team for 5 straight years.
But I'm looking at it this way, okay? Because I have a more open mind I'm more open-minded than you when it comes to the Knicks. And that is, do I see them as a bad team? Yes. Do they have a potential to be a good team? They're starting to. Because you got to start from sometime and somewhere, because they've never started from scratch to where a point where they started with young guys all time. In all the years that the Knicks have been on, they've never started from scratch, and they're finally starting from scratch. Every year they've tried to rebuild, but they've always tried to rebuild to win, not rebuild so that they can become a contender in 2 or 3 years. So see next year how they do.
I guarantee you, with that exact same roster, it's going to be the same old, same old. They will be dreadful.
I'm sure you're not going to see the same exact roster. I'm sure they're going to get new players. I mean, figure it this way. If they sign Cantor, they get Malik Bridges, and let's say they get Kemba Walker. That alone gives you a decent team. Right?
It will be okay.
Okay, it gives you a decent team, an okay team, right? So
they'll be much better at the point. That's for sure.
Exactly, but the team within itself will be a decent team that you can say, they're not too bad. They're okay. And then let's say afterwards they build, in the next year, they build more on top of that. They start building, they get a better bench. They get rid of Courtney Lee. They get rid of Thompson, and they get better players than them. And let's say Cornette flourishes a little bit more, and Dotson flourishes more, and everybody else starts to flourish. You have a decent team that could be a contender, depending upon who they get and how they play. So, yes, they suck right now, and hopefully with Kristaps Porzingis coming back next year, and hopefully they'll get Bridges, and they'll make a trade for Kemba Walker or somebody else that's actually decent. You don't have a bad team if they go that route.
Again, that's just way too much hyperbole to try and foresee their future right there.
Because I don't see Cantor coming back. Unless they pay him a boatload of money, I don't see him coming back to the team. I don't see O'Quinn coming back to the team unless they pay him a boatload of money too. But that's the situation that you're having. How much are they willing to spend, and what type of deals are they willing to make? And
if they really wanted to spend, they would try and convince some of these superstars to at least meet with them. But you know what? None of them want to because they want to win.
The only superstars that will come on their team is when the Knicks show some type of improvement.
Which is not going to be for a long time.
Exactly. And you know what? Maybe in 2 years' time, you'll probably see great players come to the team. Who knows? It's depending upon how they do. I mean, look at other teams that have actually been from scratch. Indiana, they've always started from scratch. I mean, look at these teams. I mean, we're talking about the New York Knicks, mind you. But, with 7:59 left, we don't have that much time to talk.
Yeah, we gotta officially end it right now. So
I will say my goodbyes. I'll see you next time, and take care, everyone. The weather's bad. Hopefully it'll get better, and every team will get better for New York.
All right. Thanks to you guys for watching at home as well. Hector, thank you. For everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Good night, everyone.